September 28th, 4:10 p.m. Good afternoon, late afternoon. I'm just going to play Jesse Waters, this character from Fox News, to refresh people's memories and for younger people who are unaware of our history of Chinese spies infiltrating and making payoffs to people like the Clintons. Why does anybody think a governor from a podunk state like Arkansas becomes one of the biggest multimillionaires with his wife in the Clinton Foundation? They don't art like they. I don't, nobody's paying any attention. I know that, but maybe I can focus attention on the fact that we're going to be invaded by China and Russia and why. So just here's the background for it. I'll just go away for a minute and fix myself a double martini.
Do you guys remember Chinagate in the 90s? The Clinton campaign, the DNC all got caught with their coffers full of illegal Chinese cash. Chinese spies were funneling millions to sway Democrats on trade and big tech, and it worked. Made China realize just how easy it was to corrupt Democrat politicians. And not too long after, they put a Chinese spy on Senator Dianne Feinstein's payroll. Paid him to drive her around Washington for 20 years, where he was just listening in on the senator's top secret phone calls. But it wasn't just cars the Chinese were getting into. Soon after, they were crawling into bed with high-profile Democrats. We all saw it with Fang Fang, the honey trap spy who swept Eric Swalwell off his feet. But as Primetime reported last night, Fang Fang wasn't the only Chinese honey trap in Washington. Hunter Biden had his own Fang Fang. Her name? Jackie Bao. But unlike Fang Fang, Jackie actually worked in Hunter's office as his flirty assistant. When Hunter wasn't leaving his doggy tags over her apartment, he was having her run point on a giant deal to send U.S. natural gas to China. She even gave Hunter a map telling him exactly where she wanted the energy to come from. But her primary mission seems to have been getting Joe Biden to run in 2020. New emails reveal she pestered Hunter to convince his dad to run, telling him this: "You need to help Uncle Joe run for president. He will be one of the best presidents in our country's history. We can't stand Trump anymore." And she even compared Joe Biden to Winston Churchill. So we have a Chinese spy working for Joe Biden's son, convincing them to cut natural gas deals to ship home and get their puppet Joe Biden to run for president. Does this not sound like a national security risk to you? Well, we asked the FBI what they think, and they actually got back to us, telling us the FBI has no comment. They investigated Trump over a hoax in a hotel room. But when a Chinese spy actually infiltrates the Biden family, the FBI has no comment. Is Jackie Bao sleeping with the FBI director also? Not even Fang Fang had this much pull over Eric Swalwell. Primetime actually checked in with Eric Swalwell today, and we asked him if he felt vindicated, that there's one person in D.C. who was sloppier with a Chinese spy than he was, or if he felt...
All right. Just to recap, I know anybody who's a liberal, anybody who's a Democrat, anybody who's knows that everything on Fox News is a lie. So they don't follow any of the fact that our government has been completely infiltrated with Chinese spies going back years and years and years. Not only Chinese spies, but Russian spies. And this is what connects with Celestial's prophecies, which you can find on my other videos, going back and back and back and back for a couple months, because I'm out front on what's happening. And I'm just making these videos so that once it happens, I can point back and say, gee, I predicted this was going to happen. When it happens, everybody else around me, I'm living the most bizarre life anybody can imagine. Everybody else is in cloud cuckoo land. They don't remember any of this. I remember the Clinton scandals. I remember Clinton's deregulating the banks. I remember Homeland Security and Michael Chertoff making out like a bandit as head of Homeland Security, ordering, building FEMA camps and RoboCops. And who's that for? That's for domestic It's not for Russia. It's not for any invasion. It's to round up people. We have a totalitarian government now that's in place in Washington, D.C. They're communists. They said they were communists. They ran as communists. They say socialism. Socialism, can somebody explain to me what the difference between communism and socialism is? Well, communism is when the socialists get in power. That's what communism is. And when the people who have given up their rights and given up their constitutional rights to the point where there's an impeachment of a private citizen 2 years after he's left office. Does anybody think that the impeachment clause in the Constitution was to find people unfit for office, say in the presidency, who were no longer capable or who had committed some kind of state crimes, such as Joe Biden, to be impeached and leave office? So by not just with what we're finding out about him being on the payroll and his son of the Chinese Communist Party, but also that he is mentally incapacitated, as we all see when he is wandering around in the middle, when he meets with the Saudi royals and fist bumps them. And meanwhile, they've made their own oil arrangements and trade alliances and military alliances with China, who's have exactly the man they want in office. Oddly enough, thanks to the U.S. media, who is controlled by who? Jeff Bezos and the likes of Bill Gates and the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, because the media is no longer a newspaper, it's all the social networks. I don't know, am I going to be censored? I know I won't be censored because nobody has ever believed a word I say. I just sit here and watch everything I say come true before my very eyes. I don't know, it might take 6 months, it might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take 15, 20 years even, like right now. And I see just what, I think there's one other prophet that I've listened to, Celestial, who saw it a couple of years ago, that Russia and China are going to invade the United States of America. They know the point of all these spies being in Dianne Feinstein's office, being in, and Russia and everything, is to find out where our security installations are, where are all of our secret bunkers, where are all of our, they can hit if they have the information for what our national defense is, what our weaponry is, everything, they're wandering around sleeping with these Sawalishes, and that's just come on, there's the Pollard spies, the Israelis are spying, you name it. And what's the penalty for getting caught with a Chinese spy? There's none whatsoever, because the mainstream media doesn't cover it unless it's the Fox News liars who, who's going to listen to them when 98% of the rest of the news says they're liars? Of course you're not going to trust, somebody like myself who's saying something that's so wacky and so crazy that nobody's can even imagine the stock market collapsing and falling 50 to 80 percentage points from where it is right now. Or how about the food supply being cut off? Have you heard about all these, my dear gentle associates out there in cyberspace? Have you heard about these food plants blowing up all over the country for the last months? Who do you think's doing that? Antifa? Probably. I mean, they're in the payroll of Soros. But I don't know how I got that information. I mean, Soros New World Order, you come. Who's paying for these bums? What's their job exactly but to run around and drill holes in the tires of trucks, dairy trucks? They just drilled the holes in the tires of 1,000 trucks carrying dairy. Well, because we got to stop global warming. We got to get rid of those cows. We got to get, in the Netherlands, Same in the Netherlands as it is here, same in Europe as it is here. This is I don't know how long, 40 years or so more have I been saying that there are no more nation states. It's just a single global, I called it in my comic books, Globocorp, except I was the president of Globocorp. I'm just like Karl Marx, really, except I just live inside my own head. I don't go out and, you know, organize the Bolshevik revolution and end up with hundreds of millions of people dead through Marxism, country after country after country, and now it's visiting us. That's what communism is. That's what I'm trying to say. We're living under a communist system. It's called planned economy. They decide we'll get rid of your oil and we'll give you electric cars. Why? Because we're all invested in electric cars here. You know, Paul Pelosi and the good Catholics. That's what brings. Am I talking too fast? Let me slow it down. Let me slow it down for a second. I'm talking about the Freemason conspiracy in my last couple videos. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think that it's centered in the Vatican. And it's Opus Dei, it's the Knights Templar. And then there's the Freemasons and different orders of the Golden Dawn. And they break up into, they fragment and fragment and fragment. It's in the music. It's the music of John Lennon, David Bowie, and Led Zeppelin. Let's listen to David Bowie, you know, in an interview. You know, I can't listen to the guy. So I took, because he's talking about Aleister Crowley. I mean, that's his real name is Crowley, but I just have to stick with Crowley. I've said it all my life. Holy moly, it's Crowley. No, it's Crowley, because I'm American. That's how we say things. So who is he, right? He's the black Satanist, black sex magic, early 20th century, late 19th century to like 1947, I think is when he died. But he's over in Paris with Man Ray and Marcel Duchamp, Satanist, Kabbalah, the Rosicrucians, Freemason, Ahrensberg, who is into the Philadelphia Museum, who gets the Duchamp collection. He funds Duchamp, okay? So and Duchamp is what? Duchamp is an art dealer. He deals Brancusis. He has these ideas like, oh, put a bicycle on an upside down tire, or rotate in us, you know, or play chess with a new woman who's topless, who's playing a cello. And every idea is just brilliant. He never repeats himself. It's always boring and repetitive and inane and absurd and surreal. And it's derangement of the senses. And it's all about sex, oddly enough. You know, there's never anything that, like this last piece, you look through a little peephole. Look, see what that is? Should I put the triangle on the other side? You look through a little peephole into the spread legs of a corpse that are spread just like the legs of the Black Dahlia murder, which was in 1947, which was when Man Ray and Marcel Duchamp are in LA. LA is like the pit of hell. I don't know you know, the portal to hell is what I think of LA. And its subsidiaries in Las Vegas and San Francisco and Chicago and New York City and my local habitat for humanity here in the center of the universe, the sovereign state of Washington, D.C., with this international temple of the Masons. I've got to go see it because I've seen some pictures inside. They've got all the Freemason portraits on the wall, like Norman Vincent Peale and Bob Dole, and you know, Gerald Ford was one. I just start to kind of memorize them. They're all Freemasons. It doesn't matter. They can either like join and be officially declared, or they're like Lincoln, right? He was going to, once he retired from office, he didn't want to become a Freemason because it would look a little too conspiratorial, that all his office, his cabinet, and it were Freemasons, and they were all free. So he's waiting till he retired to join the brother. But believe me, if all of your entire company are Freemasons, then connect the dots. He's also in correspondence with Karl Marx, because Marx was a supporter of the Union as international communist, and the Confederates were trying to get money from Europe for their own kingdom of the South, which would have gone down into Mexico and South America if they can. Empires expand, so they were moving into their southern empire. It's a split in the Masonic orders. Albert Pike, who's buried in the International Temple there in Washington, D.C., was the Pop Mason of the South. So really, it's just like churches. If you look at the Baptist Church, the Southern Baptist Leadership Conference, and then you have the New Baptist and the Middle, and they're all across the street. They're all Christians, but they don't believe in the same thing. Really, if you sit down and say, well, what? Well, I went with the pastor. Ask the pastor what I believe. It's just good feelings. We just have a lot of fellowship. We got a lot of business deals going on here. We're integrated, and we got the ads. We're building a new church down the street, and we're trying to get some investors. And we're on a mission Mission Impossible to convert the Haitians. I mean, they're deeply in need of Jesus, but the people in Baltimore or the people in Washington D.C. or they're in need of some kind of socialism. Yeah, well, we'll just vote socialist or communist, and then the wealth will be redistributed. That's what Bernie Sanders is all about. We've elected a communist government of Freemasons, multi-millionaires or billionaires, or with private jets, and Trump, Biden, Billy Graham, Billy Goat Gates, Billy Goat Clinton. It's an interesting show to watch, but it would be interesting to have some conversation about it every once in a while. If there's anybody that's following the thread of the plot, like the real narrative, not the false narrative, and it can be traced back through history. It's like if you pick it up right here and do that, you're not going to know what the hell's going on. But if you just start to look back at these early modernists, and you look back at the connections between the Guggenheim money, like Peggy Guggenheim and the Guggenheim, and who's her husband, Max Ernst, and Samuel Beckett, and here's all this. James Jesus Angleton, the head of the CIA, he published one of these periodicals, like the Dial Press, the Modernists, the James Joyces, and the T.S. Eliots would be published. So there's an integration, a seamless integration of the right and the left along the lines of the global elite, and these Rothschild's bloodlines or bloodlines from Cain down through the centuries. I'm not pointing the fingers at anybody in particular. I'm pointing a finger at the phenomenon of the Antichrist in Rome. Is this news to anybody? Seemingly, anyway. That's how I see things, but I also see things as a lot worse than that, because we're right on the brink of let's just take the latest incident, and I'll throw my there. That's my Yves Tanguy look. If anybody knows who Yves Tanguy, the man from The Planet Without Life, the surrealist. There's this little incident that happened, was it yesterday now? Time escapes me. Of the I say Nordstrom's, yeah, because it's all about the fashion. Nord Stream 1 and 2 both getting sabotaged. When I'm listening last night, of course I know what it is. I mean, three guesses. Oh, who can pull off a job like that? Well, you've got to have special forces. I mean, it's not just like you have the explosives and you have deep sea divers like Thunderball. I think Thunderball, you know, like guys like that pulled that off. And that is what? Oh, it sabotaged. It was an act of war against Russia. You blow up their pipeline. You also cut off the gas for Germany, and when they don't have that gas, their manufacturing chemical plant, the BASF plant, is not going to be able to produce the chemicals necessary for the rest of the European Union to produce goods like cars and toothpaste and wonder drugs, your pharmaceutical drugs, all that kind of stuff. One thing I'm curious about, since I don't take drugs myself, outside of a little, what's it called, resveratrol, vitamin mixture here, vitamin C, a little bit of fermented grape, but never more than half a cup, because I have I don't like the effects of having more than half a cup of alcohol, and I definitely don't like the effects of psychedelics and alcohol or pharmaceuticals or anything like that. Though I was prone to think, because I was listening to the advice of the psychiatric community, that they get rid of your social anxieties, and everybody's on them, and you get rid of your social anxieties, but you're taking in a lot of demonic access to these miracle miracle workers. The everybody dancing and speaking in tongues and all that stuff. I was drawn into that because I'm always curious about religious experiences, and that's what made me aware of the fact that this stuff is demonic. That these people speaking in tongues are speaking in the tongues of devils and demons, and I knew this when I was in college because people very near and dear to me were pulled into one of these sex slave cults run by fundamentalist Christians who were child abusers that lived up the block from me in Northern Virginia. Where else? Because it's the center of demonic activity. Believe it or not. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head now. It must be, in vino veritas. I've got about 23 minutes. I don't want to overdo it. But like I say, there is a accelerating movement towards the end times. And the last 3 years, in my mind, in my experience, has been the prelude, all the things being set in motion, all these portals being opened where demons and people are coming out. These people that I used to think, oh, they're nice little Joey and down the block, and little Uncle Fester and Wifey Pooh and all these good honest socialists. I mean, they're all, of course, they're going to be truthful and just like all Marxists, Leninists are. So misplaced trust in a lot of people, but things really changed with Trump. I'll tell you that. That's when things really, all of a sudden, I didn't notice it because I'm largely politically indifferent. I just analyze, just the conditions of the corruption on both sides. So I well knew that Trump was corrupt. I also well knew that he was exposing a lot of corruption that they, meaning the other part of the society of friends or fraternal brothers and sisters. So it's a war, it's a power struggle. And right now, you've got the explosive conditions necessary for a civil war and for anarchy. So I see just what, I don't know, maybe Celestial is the only other one who sees it in the same way I do, even though a lot of, I'll hear it alluded to by some financial analysts like Greg Manarino or the Watchers on the Wall in Israel or wherever they're from. I don't really pay a lot of attention to that. I just listen to what's being said. I don't personalize it in the way a lot of other people do. Like, I don't think of, oh, I hate Trump or I hate Biden or, I love Trump or I love Biden or I love David Bowie. Anyway, back to David Bowie, that's what I was getting at. Bowie was in this interview and he talks about the 70s war dominated by Aleister Crowley. And where's David Bowie? In LA. And who else is in LA with David Bowie? John Lennon. And they're both disciples of Aleister Crowley, though you don't say you are any more than Jimmy Page is saying. I tried to listen to a Jimmy Page an hour and say, oh, I don't know anything about that Satanist stuff. And Stairway to Heaven, that's just kind of a low tune and Satan talking backwards on it. That has nothing to do with me. Well, now he's only writing the music for the Satanists, the outspoken Crowley disciple Kenneth Anger in Los Angeles. So they're all in Los Angeles. That's what's coming out of Los Angeles. Andy Warhol's coming out of Los Angeles. The same kind of, the drugs, the sex, the rock and roll. Doesn't matter if it could be the bossa nova. Leave it to the bossa nova. It could be Elvis shaking his pelvis. Elvis was a pedophile. I know somebody who dated his brother, and so I know that as a fact. And also, you can, do some research about Michael Jackson, do some research about Elvis, do some research about Marlon Brando. I don't know about his bisexuality, Kerouac's bisexuality. This stuff is all connected to the same Pan, the piper, the goat herder, the goat god, this that you see in Freemasonry, that symbolism. I go back and I see William Tecumseh Sherman, who's the general who liberated Atlanta by burning it down. And then he went on to commit genocide against the Native Americans, all with the full approval and encouragement of who else but the New York Tribune, which is where Karl Marx wrote, which is where Abraham Lincoln read his columns. But here's William Tecumseh Sherman. He's got his Masonic symbolism, etc. It's real. It's not a conspiracy theory. I'm just looking at the history of the presidencies and the history of the South and the history of the North and the history of Europe and the history of ancient Rome and the history of ancient Egypt. So I'll leave you with that. There's a few things to think about. But this is, it's making me awfully nervous. I'll tell you that much. What's making me the most nervous is that everybody's oblivious to, they're not just oblivious to the secret hand, the hidden societies, the layers of deception, the shell companies, the shell corporations, the shell societies, they're just oblivious to everything. There's this kind of bubble where they're just in a media. I just listen to MSNBC. I got Rachel Maddow. She tells me what's going on. Or I got NPR. Is NPR on? I've got to find out what's going on in Russia. Well, it's complete propaganda. Nothing on NPR has corresponded with reality, as we just found out in the New York Times. The Ukraine is finished. So that's why they're blowing up the pipeline. You've got to keep, as soon as the reality of something sets in, that this is all lies, blammo. Now we're just keeping it, keep throwing gasoline on the fire, and that'll lead to peace. So, cheers. See you next time. God bless everyone.